Hey guys, know it's been a while here, but I'm going to share another restoration project I just finished up, and this video is for Billy, who owns this really nice little Micromoog. So this is a fairly early Micromoog. The serial number unfortunately is rubbed off of it, so I don't really know exactly what serial number it is, but I know just from the way it's built, it's an earlier unit. But anyways, I went to this one and completely rebuilt pretty much everything on it. The keyboard was in pretty rough shape, so I had another donor keyboard. So I took his keyboard and this keyboard and made one really nice keyboard here. Rebuilt it with new bushings and all that good stuff, and did a full alignment. Cleaned the bus bars and the J-wire and all that good stuff. These use J-wire contacts, but it's still a print read keyboard, so it still has a great feel to it. Rebuilt the LHC, rebuilt the ribbon controller. It just gave everything just a really good cleaning once we got everything working. And you can just see how nice and clean everything looks. It really turned out really nice. Also, I cut a new under chassis for this one. The fiberboard material had started to disintegrate, and so actually I cut a piece of plywood and make a new under chassis for these things. And it just really holds up well. But you can see the wood grain sticker on the sides is still fantastic condition. Overall, this one's in really good shape. Like I say, the only thing that's kind of discolored is the back. You can see the stickers here are a little brown. That happens with sometimes the inks they used. They just age differently. But you can see there's no serial number. It's kind of rubbed out. And I tried to recover it, and I just could not see it. I may see it right here on camera, though. Sometimes this camera sees things I can't see. But no, I can't quite make it out. But anyways, just cleaned everything up really good back here as well. And just kind of give you another walk around here on this side, but you can see the wood grain still looks really good over here. And just a down shot, it looks really, really great. But like I say, I rebuilt the under chassis. I'll flip it up here so you guys can see the under chassis on these things. You can see I painted everything. I put feet on it. All new hardware. Except for the keyboard mount screws at the back there. Those were still in good shape and original. But I used stainless steel hardware pretty much for all the remounting. And yeah, just cleans up really good, looks really good. And it's a good solid instrument now. So it's no longer all loose and all the wrong hardware. It had a lot of hardware in it that was just kind of mismatched. Because Billy actually toured with these, so they were used. This one in particular was really used. But anyways, let me put the camera on the tripod here, and I'll make you guys a demo. Okay, so anyways, we're going to start by going over each section of the synth to show you everything's functioning. And we'll start with the oscillator. So this has only got one oscillator in it, and which is kind of unusual for Moog anyways. But this synth is absolutely one of my favorite single oscillator mono synths in existence. It just has a sound. It does things that no other one oscillator synth does. And hats off to Jim Scott who designed this one, because he did some really cool stuff with this filter interaction, which I'll show you here in a minute. But we'll start with the oscillator. So what we have an octave or footage, just like that, almost just like a mini Moog. So you got 32, 16, 8, 4, 2 footage. But you also got this wide mode, which actually looks at this knob right here and gives you a wide frequency response. So kind of a really cool area there. It does some things with the interactions of other things that I'll bring up here in a minute. And then we got variable waveform. So this actually doesn't have a selector switch for waveform. It actually varies through the waveforms as you turn this knob. So as you can hear, we got like a square wave right now. But if we turn this, there's a pulse wave. And as we rotate it, you hear this change. And now we got a sawtooth. So you can hear a really cool oscillator design there. We've also got this thing called doubling. Now what this is, it's actually a divider circuit. So it clocks off the original oscillator, and it gives you a divide down to one octave or divide to another second octave. And this is the same kind of control you see on some other synths. It's usually called a sub-oscillator in a lot of synths. It's just a divider is all it is, but it adds a lot to this in the way that they actually add the mixing control. So it's not either on or off like most single oscillator synths. You can actually mix it. And so you can still hear the primary oscillator over the sub. So it's really nice. I'll give you an example of this. So you mix it just a little bit in there. You can hear it kind of fattens up that oscillator just a little bit. And that's 1 octave down. If we go 2 octave down, you can hear how that sounds. So we got the footages. So that's footage 2. But as I was mentioning, if we go to wide, you got this knob right here, and now it's looking at this knob. So kind of a cool feature. That don't seem like it does much for you right now, but as I go through some of the other sections, it'll all make sense why that's a handy knob. So that's the oscillator section pretty much. We'll go over here. I'll turn the oscillator off here in the oscillator section. So what this switch here does, I'll bring this up real quick. So you got normal mode in this oscillator selection, so it's actually looking at the keyboard. Then you've got drone, which just makes the oscillator drone. You don't look at the keyboard anymore, which is also a handy feature. And then you've got off, which actually kills the audio bus, so now you don't hear the oscillator at all. So we got the noise source. As you can hear, so just a simple white noise source. We'll combine the oscillators back in. Now I'll show you the filter. So this filter is also really unique. And I love the way Jim Scott designed this filter, because what it does, it's still a Moog transistor ladder filter, but he's actually tied it into the footage selection of the oscillator for the actual frequency of the filter. But he's also giving you some other features that are really handy. I'll bring up here later on. But we've got a mode. We'll bring this up, this one particular feature. So you got normal, which basically makes this filter not really self-oscillate. It just gives you a nice resonance and cutoff. Full gives you a little bit more of a self-oscillation. It's still not in self-oscillation. Like this would be the equivalent of turning the emphasis all the way to 10 on a mini Moog, and you have that really hard oscillation of your filter. But what full does, it gives you just a little bit more on the edge of self-oscillation. But when you go to tone, it makes this thing a wide range sine wave oscillator. And because it's linked to the footage control, it allows you to actually select the footages of the filter. Basically, the filter becomes an oscillator, a sine wave oscillator. So it's really cool. It's a really cool concept here. And of course, that brings back into another function I'll show you here in just a few minutes. So we'll start with the filter. So we got the oscillators back on. So now we'll bring up the cutoff, or bring down the cutoff, should I say. Bring up the emphasis. Now we also have the amount of contour here with this little contour generator here, so I'll bring that up. So it may not sound very impressive right now, but we'll go to full mode. What that does, that gives you a little bit more emphasis. Some great harmonics out of this filter. But now when you go to tone, that's when this thing really becomes a self-oscillation filter. And basically your emphasis control really doesn't work anymore because it actually almost bypasses your emphasis, puts it in hard emphasis basically. So now we're in tone. Now what's cool about this, I'm going to turn the oscillators off. So you won't hear the oscillator, this is just a filter. But as mentioned a while ago, we can change the octave over here at the oscillator. Put a little glide on that. We'll put a little modulation on the filter as well. I'll go over here. I haven't gone over the modulation section, but I'll go and bring this up a little bit. So this is really nice. Now somebody that used the Micromoog quite a lot, and a lot of people don't give it recognition, is Kraftwerk. Kraftwerk actually used the Micromoog quite a bit. You kind of hear some of those tones. But anyways, that's basically some principles of the filter. Now if we go here, I'll show you that the envelope, the amount of contour works. So actually this is really cool. So we've got a positive contour. As you can see, we got a release time. So we can bring it down to where it's just a click. So now you get into some drum, kind of percussive kind of stuff. So the filter is still in tone mode. So you've got a positive contour, or you can turn the knob this way and it inverts it. Great filter, absolutely fantastic for these really low end kind of stuff. But we've also got this feature here I'm going to bring up. So this is actually called Filter Mod by Oscillator is the actual switch. Now this is very similar to what I do in a mini Moog when I demo those, where I actually engage the oscillator into the filter and it gives you a L-film synthesis. So we'll bring that up now. So we're still in tone mode. Bring it into weak. So now we'll turn the envelope back off on the filter. So now you can hear that kind of ringing in the filter. We'll turn that back off. So it's just a filter. Then we got strong. We'll go to normal mode, turn the oscillators back on. And now you hear those real present L-film kind of stuff. just for a second, you think you're listening to a DX7, just from that L-film synthesis kind of stuff. What I love to do though is just get wild with it, because this is such a cool section. So here. We can put the oscillator into drone. Or turn the oscillator off altogether, and now you got a ring modulator. So here it gets really wild. It does some really cool stuff there. But it also gets even wilder because we can go here into wide mode and we'll keep this just like it is in drone. So we'll go. And now what you're hearing the filter back in normal. We got strong still in the filter mod. And now we are back in normal. So now everything's back in normal mode here. So anyways, you can hear how that works. Just a really cool part to show of this synth, because this is really where some of the magic happens. So now we'll actually bring that filter up. You've heard the envelope generator. I am going to go over something you saw me selecting, which is this filter sustain switch. So now you can hear it. As long as I hold a note, it's going to follow the release. Well, if I select this, it's not going to release till I let off a note. It's actually kind of handy. But also I'll show you too the filter control works. So actually we'll go back to full mode here, oscillator back off, set everything to 0. So it's just a click. So we'll do a slow release. And these have a really long envelope. So we'll set the release back to 0, so it's just a click. Now we'll bring up the attack. So you can hear, so there's your filter controller. Now we'll go back to regular mode there, turn the oscillator back on, and open this filter back up. So now we'll go to the loudness. So the loudness has the same thing. We can select the switch down here to make it just a pop, or we can put it in this mode, which you can hear it's releasing because I got the release set all the way to 0, so it doesn't release till off a note. We'll go to this mode first. So here's release set to 0. We'll bring up release. So there's your release time. We'll bring that back down just a click. Once again, it's got a really long, it's a 10-second release time, so I'm not going all the way full. So here's the attack. So there's your attack. So that's your loudness controller. We've also got this bypass switch, which actually it gives a voltage to the VCA and allows it just to hang open, which is really nice if you're into doing drones and that kind of stuff. Really handy. So that's the functions here. Now I'll go over the modulation section. You've heard it a little bit here, but I will show you it a little bit more in detail. So basically you got your source and routing and your rate. So the rate is of course your LFO speed. The source is going to select what you're actually injecting into the routing. So right now we got a triangular wave and just an oscillator. So here's how that sounds. Let's set this back up here. We can also go with a square wave. We got noise, so we can inject noise into the oscillator. This is kind of like in the modulation mix section of a mini Moog. We can also bend the note. Kind of makes your modulation wheel a pitch wheel. Of course, I've rebuilt the ribbon here as well. I'll show you that works real quick. Hear your ribbon there, how that works. So that's the bend. We also got sample and hold. Now this sample and hold here has an auto trigger, and so it'll auto trigger the keyboard, and then when you bring up the wheel you hear the actual sample and hold patterns come in. So we'll go to sample and hold. So that's it with auto trigger. Now you also got sample and hold where you will trigger the note and you won't hear it come in until you bring it to wheel. Like so. So that's your functions here of your source. We'll go back to a triangular waveform. So you've got the next section is the routing. You got oscillator, which you've heard. We got off, which is not routed to anything. We've got oscillator and filter, which is going to modulate both the filter and oscillator. So as you can hear there. we got just the filter. Then we got off again, so it's not going to do anything there. And then we got this cool waveform here. So it's actually going to go, it's going to modulate through the waveforms of Oscillator 1. This is one of my favorite features as well about this thing. So we'll open this filter back up. It's almost like a pulse width control, but it's actually varying to the waveform. Really great sound there, and that's primarily the synthesizer. That's really all there is to it. It's a pretty simple little synth, but as you can hear, it gets really complex in the things it offers. You also have the glide. It has a glide similar to that of ARP. That's how I kind of explain it. It's got a lazy glide. I will show you this right quick though. This is something I just thought of. I like to do with this. Is I'll go to filter in our modulation routing, and I'll put that on sample and hold. It's just a cool kind of sound there. But anyways, that's the Micromoog. And just want to take a minute here for you, Billy, and show you that everything's functioning. For you guys that watch my videos, appreciate you watching. There'll be more here to come here very soon. Take care.